How's it going? I am Anchor Pete, and I am here with my beautiful wife, Shari T. And after a long wait, we are finally here to talk about the movie Fargo. Fargo was originally supposed to be part of our Snowbound event, which took place in January. Well, now we are in March. Fargo came out in 1996, and it made a big splash. I remember when it came out, Shari. I was, 14, and I think it was a big deal when it came out. What about you? I bet you saw it in the theater.
I can't remember where I saw it. I'm sure I saw it in the theater too because I was excited about it. I was into the Cohen Brothers already, and I had heard really good things about it.
Yeah. I feel like this movie is very much of its time. I remember a lot of movies that came out at this time, and it has this kind of feeling to it that I think is very unique for that time period. Here's the thing. You guys all know about Fargo, right? I'm not telling you anything new, but there's a couple of little tidbits I picked up while researching it. We all know that it was made by the Cohen brothers, Ethan and Joel, and that Frances McDormand was in it, and she won an Academy Award for Best Actress.
She has won Best Actress twice, once for Fargo, which we're talking about here, and once for that Three Billboards movie, just a few years ago, pretty recently.
That was a quality movie.
Yeah, we weren't crazy about it, but I think her performance was stellar.
I learned some other things about the Coen brothers.
She's also in their first movie.
Oh, what's their first movie?
Blood Simple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I have some interesting tidbits about that as well.
Ooh, all right, give me some tidbits, and I'll give you my tidbits.
So first, they interviewed Holly Hunter for the role in Blood Simple, which is the lead female protagonist.
Yeah.
And Holly Hunter went to the interview and said, I don't know why I'm here. I already have a part in a Broadway show, and I can't do this. But I have someone in mind, and it was her roommate. It was Frances McDormand. Isn't that cool that they were roommates?
Yeah.
And they're still good friends to this day.
Really?
Yeah. And then the Coen brothers went on to obviously cast Frances McDormand. Joel married her. And then the second movie they made is Raising Arizona, and they wrote the part for Holly Hunter.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah. I like that movie, too. Well, these dudes, they're like ridiculous, man. They have had 5 of their films be nominated for Best Picture. Do you know what those 5 are?
No.
Come on, guess one.
Well, I know No Country for Old Men won
Boom.
Best Picture,
One.
so that's one that I know of.
Give me another one.
Fargo.
2, good. Now, they've written 5 of them, so that's going to be a clue for one of them, okay? The one that you're not going to guess at all.
They directed all of their movies that they write.
Oh, they do, but there's one movie that they wrote that was nominated for Best Picture that was directed by Spielberg.
What?
It's that movie Bridge of Spies.
They wrote that?
They wrote that. Okay, so that's 3.
I've had no desire to see that movie, and now that makes me want to see it more.
All right, come on. We got 2 more to go. You think you can guess them? There's one that you're not going to think about because I don't think anybody thinks about.
I just don't think their movies are usually the Best Picture type.
Okay, I'll kind of say them then.
Go ahead.
A Serious Man, right? And then True Grit. Their version of True Grit.
Oh, so they're more recent work.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you do the research, obviously they've been around for a while, right? They've made some movies for like 30 years now or more.
Yeah, the mid-'80s.
And so and they've had some classics like Raising Arizona, but it's really in the last few years that they've become almost like a Meryl Streep, where it's like, oh, they've made a movie, so now it needs to be nominated for Best Picture. You know?
Okay. But I think they're worthy.
Oh, shit, yeah. So we should tell you 2 things. There's going to be spoilers for Fargo, but, it came out in 1996, so I don't really feel bad for you. The other thing is we're probably going to have a lot of moments where we're like, that's just like this in Season 2 of Fargo. That's just like this in Season 3 of Fargo. Because Shari and I are huge fans of the Fargo show.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want references to the Fargo show, you've come to the right place. You got any more tidbits, or can I give you some more tidbits?
You go ahead.
Okay, so it turns out that when they write their script, pretty much what they write in the script becomes the movie, right? They don't change their script. And when they write their script, they just get ideas for scenes. It's very like David Lynch. They get ideas for scenes and they write them out. And they don't have an outline. They actually don't map out their movie. And they just start writing it. And usually what happens is they'll get stuck in the middle, because that's what happens when you don't have an outline for something, right?
Okay.
And they'll write whole other movies when they are stuck in the middle of another screenplay they're working on.
Do they discard some of those scenes and those scenes later go into other movies?
They end up finishing the movie. So then they'll have 2 movies when they were really starting to work on one.
That's why they're so prolific. I mean, they have a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's almost one a year, I think, probably at this point. But besides that, when I said that they really stick to the script, one funny thing about like Joel, the one that's married to Frances McDormand, he's notorious for if an actor improvises, then he'll say, "Hey, that's good, but that was real great, but can we do it in the script, or can we do it kind of like
he doesn't like anyone changing his
right,
writing,
right, or can we do it kind of like what's written in the script?" So that was a little interesting little.
I'd be surprised if in The Big Lebowski, Jeff Bridges didn't improvise something.
I don't know, man. Not according to what I read. All right, let's talk about the actual movie. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
It's in Minnesota in 1987, and we follow William H. Macy, who really just has this incredible performance in this movie. His performance, for instance, I mean, everyone in this movie is really great. All the characters are interesting. They have like iconic lines. The dialogue is great. But William H. Macy,
he's so desperate and
desperation
and nervous but trying
anxiety.
to cover it.
Yeah. He just really conveys his anxiety, But I mean, he never says it like I'm feeling really anxious. He never admits how he feels ever. He always has this, facade on, but you just see through his eyes and his like stammering and stuff like that how truly anxious he is.
Yeah, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for the film, which is strange because I think he's actually in it as much as Frances McDormand, maybe even a little bit more.
Yeah.
And by the way, I checked this last night when we were watching it. Frances McDormand doesn't make an appearance until 36 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
The movie is an hour and 38 minutes, which I appreciate. I'm so tired of these really long movies that go on for 2.5 hours.
Totally
I appreciate that runtime, and we get everything we need in that runtime.
Yeah.
Anyway, she doesn't show up until 36 minutes in. He's been in it the whole time before that.
Right.
Anyway, so he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and he did not win, which I was kind of like, who could have beat him because he is so good? But it was Edward Norton in Primal Fear.
Oh, damn.
Who's amazing.
Well,
and that's his first role, and he's immediately like a star.
Yeah.
So I understand. Too bad for William H. Macy. Bad year for him.
One thing that we couldn't figure out was like, why does he have this debt, right? And if you guys know, could you tell us in the comments, like if it's like somewhere in the movie, we just don't know why he has this debt. I have a theory. I think
it's implied. Yeah. What is your theory?
My theory is that like when he goes to make a sale and he promises someone a certain amount, and then they said, well, we want lower, or you promised us lower amount. I think he covers the difference. And so he's just been doing that with all of his sales and just acquiring a ton of debt. That's my thought.
Because he doesn't want to lose the sale, and it's hard to deal with the customers as they have a scene, right?
I feel like he's paying out of his own pocket.
I think that's a fairly good guess.
I think that's just based on that one scene where the guy's like kind of telling him off, and
Yeah, the movie does a good job of setting up what kind of life he has, which is he's a doormat a lot. He's a doormat to his customers and especially to his father-in-law.
We have watched 4 seasons of Fargo. And there's a lot of things that they take from the show and they take from the movie and they put into the show, right? And I'm pretty sure that the movie itself takes place in the universe of the show, too. Because they've never addressed that exact time period. And there's no characters that they've, like, recast or anything. And so the main character, William H. Macy's character, is very similar to Martin Freeman's character in the first season of Fargo.
Yes.
And then he also is talking about getting parking lots, and parking lots is like what Ewan McGregor's character, or one of his characters, is a twin. He's 2 twins in that season. He owns parking lots too. So it's almost like maybe Ewan McGregor's character ended up buying those parking lots that he was going to create.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I just love that world. I think that our boy, what's his name, the guy we met that we referenced?
Noah Hawley?
Yeah, I think Noah Hawley, he really loves this movie, and he's able to make like a universe out of it. And and the Cohen Brothers are executive producers on the Fargo show too. Shari, comparing the TV show to the movie, right? The show incorporates the amazing theme from this movie. The score of this movie is fantastic. The opening music they play over the credits, like when the movie begins, with the car driving on the snowy highway.
Yes, I love the opening credits. There's nothing better, man. Like, I love the snow falling, and all you see is just like all the snow, and then it's the car headlights kind of showing up, and eventually it gets closer and closer until it gets to you, and the music's playing the whole time, and when the score swells, like, it gives me chills. And we talked about this recently, you and I, privately. about when the music matches up to the moment.
Mm-hmm,
How special that is as a film
mm-hmm.
goer or person who views movies all the time and loves movies. Like that's one of your favorite things.
Yeah.
And I feel like even in this beginning moment, which is like the first couple of minutes, that happens. I love it.
I feel like this movie, I don't know if like when it came out, people knew what to do with it. I said it was of its time, and I think that in the early 90s with independent movies like this one, people were truly trying to make something different, but they weren't trying to be like David Lynch or like avant-garde filmmakers and make weird things. They were trying to take stuff that we know, like this, like a drama, and just like kind of make it off-center a little bit.
I think that is some credit to Quentin Tarantino coming onto the
1000%,
scene.
yes.
But the Cohen brothers were already doing this before Quentin Tarantino was there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just weren't appreciated
until
Quentin Tarantino made it something that people were excited about. And then the Cohen brothers, their style was suddenly like, oh, they're like that too. That's pretty cool. They're quirky characters.
Right.
David Lynch was doing it also before Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
But Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction like really blew it up and made it possible for, I think, these people who had already been on that path to finally start getting some credit, which is great. The 90s are a great time for movies.
That, what, Shari, that's an excellent point. I think you just kind of brought it to a head what I was trying to say, because like I said that it's of a time, and you're 100% right. It's the post Pulp Fiction, post like Tarantino time, and everyone's trying to make a copy of Pulp Fiction, and so there's a lot of movies like that where it's like quirky kind of crime movie, and this is a quirky crime movie too, but it's something unique, something different.
It is totally unique.
Yeah.
It's I've never seen a movie like this, and I don't think there really has been a movie like this, except one of their own, maybe, that has some things in common with it.
Right.
Also, I wanted to go back and mention the composer's name because we're giving such high praise to the wonderful score that opens and kind of closes the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they also use that score on the TV show, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
His name is Carter Burwell, and he has worked with Coen Brothers many times on their movies.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to make sure we said his name because he's excellent, and I don't think I hadn't heard of him.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the name, but yeah, that music is recognizable, that's for sure.
He knew this movie had a lot of comedy in it, and he wanted to do a score that sort of was the opposite and highlighted the darker moments.
Yes. Ooh, I am glad that he made that choice, because that's actually kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about with this movie is, I remember seeing it. I saw it as a teenager. It was 1996, so I must have been like 14. And I remember that it was the first time I'd seen a movie where you just had like comedy and complete and utter like darkness and horror just like on top of each other. And I don't know if I'd ever seen an example of that beforehand in my life.
It's an odd mix, and it really works in this film. I don't know if it would always work because it's very funny, right? The way they talk, the little conversations that mostly I think with the policeman, and Steve Buscemi's character is pretty comedic.
There's random scenes of violence, and this is what going back to, we were saying movies of its time, this post Quentin Tarantino era, where there's this random violence and it's very sudden and it's disturbing. When Jean is kidnapped, it's funny and scary simultaneously. It's funny because she's watching this like a silly show. I think it's like a game show or a soap opera, and then Steve Buscemi comes up to the window and he's like looking in. He can't find her.
Not subtle at all. It's broad daylight.
Right, and she's looking right at him, and she's like, "What's going on?" And he's just looking in. So just the imagery of the guy with the ski mask is scary. He breaks in. She tries to run away. So Peter Stormare plays Grimswood, right? And he's just so cold and quiet the whole movie, and so you don't really know what he's going to do to this woman when he gets her. And she bites his hand, and then there's that one really tense scene where she's in the bathtub, and you don't even know it at first, right? You just think, oh, it's this silly scene where he got bit on his hand, and he's getting this like stuff to put on his...
Yeah, it looks like she escaped out the window.
Right. But then he knows that she's in there, and he like goes to grab her, and she runs around the shower curtain, and it's just like, it's kind of silly, but it's also horrible at once. There's
a couple of scenes of her running with something covering her head, and they're laughing at her, or the audience maybe even is laughing at her, but it's actually terrible.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's after they kidnap her, and then just getting her to the location where they're going to keep her is probably the most horrible scene in the whole movie. Well, I don't know, arguably one of the most horrible scenes in the movie is when the cop goes to pull him over, right? And it's super tense because you kind of care about Steve Buscemi, right? Because he's kind of charming, right? But then...
He's funny.
Yeah, but then Peter Stormare just, like, pulls the cop down, shoots him in the head, and his blood just gushes all over Steve Buscemi. It's so sudden. And Steve Buscemi says, he's like, oh, daddy, right? He says, whoa, daddy.
Yeah, he's in shock. I don't think at this point that he has been someone who kills people normally in his life. Maybe never.
Yeah.
From the way he behaves. I mean, they don't address really that, but it doesn't seem like he's a natural born killer.
No, he's not like Peter
So
Stormare.
he's shocked by his partner's, violence. And that partner, Peter Stormare, has no problem killing anyone.
Yeah, so they kill the cop, and that's horrific, and you're kind of in shock seeing that. But then another car comes by while Steve Buscemi's trying to...
Oh, it's so good.
It's good, but it's friggin' horrible as hell.
I know, but that moment, and they kind of do it in slow motion, and the person driving by is like... Because Steve Buscemi's dragging a cop's body. I mean, it's quite the scene to happen upon, and you just know they're in trouble.
And so these murders that are very random in their nature, are what ultimately put Frances McDormand... They bring her into the movie. That's when she finally comes into the movie, and it puts her on the trail of these killers, these kidnappers.
Right, and they're very sloppy kidnappers. That's what's kind of comedic somewhat about this movie is that they're such a mess. They don't do a good job. They don't cover their tracks. They leave a trail all over the place. She's able to easily track them. She's smart, of course, but she puts two and two together like that. I mean, I think she discovers them within like 3 days or something.
Oh, yeah. It's only a handful of days, this whole thing. We keep referencing the Fargo TV show. First season, there's a female pregnant cop, right? Same thing, just like Frances McDormand. And in every season of Fargo, except for the most recent one, well, there's even cops in that one too, but in the 3 prior seasons, there is always a cop that's like Frances McDormand's character. And 2 out of the 3 times, it's a female cop too, where they are kind of sharper than people around them. And I think that, like, us as the audience, right, the way they talk and stuff, we think they're not that sharp, but she's quite sharp in this.
No, she's very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like a theme throughout the Fargo TV series too.
Yeah, this movie is very good about pointing out that being polite, being pleasant, being almost simple in the way you live your life does not mean you are not smart.
No. Right?
Because that's how she is. She's a very simple person. She likes her Arby's that her husband brings her. Really love the Arby's scene.
Yeah.
There's actually quite a few scenes of her eating.
Yes, there is.
And that's reminiscent also of Tarantino and David Lynch, who love to talk about food in their movies too.
Right.
She lives a simple life. Her husband's an artist. He makes paintings of ducks for stamps.
Stamps, that's right. Yeah.
And just all the little tidbits about their marriage are so cute. They have this very happy marriage. I really like that aspect of her character, that she has a happy home life. She's a happy person. She has a good life. Yeah. She appreciates life. So when there are all these senseless killings, she has this good moment at the end of the movie where she's like, "There's more to life than money. Don't you know that?" Right? She says. I really liked it. Oh, we have to talk. This is the last thing. We have to talk about the very famous scene with the foot.
The wood chipper?
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. So, I mean...
it's so gross. I think it is. It made me feel nauseous last night just watching it, even though I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Seeing the snow red all around them, and like when she's first creeping up on him, you don't know what he's doing.
Right.
And you don't even know what you're looking at, but you see the snow is all red.
Yeah.
And like, to me, I remember like sitting there looking at that, not knowing what I was looking at, and finally getting the close-up of him like jamming the sock down.
Yeah.
Ew, I was horrified.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of those scenes, right? And people think of Fargo. I mean, they sure think of a lot of things. It's a very memorable movie. Right? But that scene is probably like one of the most iconic scenes from the entire movie.
And it's actually one of the most violent, gross things I've ever really seen when I think about like actually putting a whole body through that, which he apparently has done.
Yeah, I mean, he must have cut him up with that axe that he used to kill him and then just...
No, that's a good scene too. That's scary.
Yeah. Because it is kind of like a Friday the 13th kind of shot, right? Because Steve Buscemi says, I'm going to take this car that's part of our payment because I got shot in the face. And then he's going to leave, and then Peter Stormare just kind of runs up to him, and he's like swinging the axe into him, and then it just cuts to the next scene. So.
Yeah, and their dynamic throughout the whole thing is kind of funny too. I didn't see it coming that he was going to kill him though. Maybe a little bit.
He just was like so violent and impulsive. It wasn't as much of a shock, but him disposing of that way. That was definitely a shock.
Anyway, it's pretty horrific. And again, in this like comedic movie, there are those moments that are as horrible as anything in a horror movie that you would see, or as gory. It's a hard R.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's a bunch of random sex scenes too.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stood out when I first saw it too. I was like, okay, this is random.
Steve Buscemi is going crazy out there at the lake.
He just, he needs some either college chicks or prostitutes. And he goes and he has sex with a prostitute in like the Native American guy's house. So you guys waited long enough, from January and Snowbound to this episode. So thank you so much.
And I'd love to hear comments. Tell us your favorite moments in Fargo and, what you like about the movie, too.
Claudia, I know you've been watching. I know you have things to say about Fargo, so let us know. And then, guys, just for our channel, just a little heads up. Pepper and I are going to continue our Superman and Lois coverage every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central. It's live. We get people commenting. We love it, so come join us. And then besides that, Brian and I are going to be recording our Falcon and the Winter Soldier reviews, which will be 9 p.m. Central on Fridays. So join us for that, too. So, I think it was good to watch Fargo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You betcha. Yeah. See y'all.